I am live. I've been rushing around, waiting for Steph to join us for our talk today. There's Steph. Hi, Steph. Oh, I cancelled and wait for Stephanie Shant. Oh no, I'm waiting. That's it. Oh,
hello.
Hello. Oh, I was rushing around at the last moment because I realised I've got no charge on the phone.
Details.
Yeah, I thought that's organisation for you. And I looked and I went, oh, and I know how we'll be wittering on and running out of charge midway is not an option. So just that.
How are you?
I'm all right. Got very heavy makeup on today. I was washing my makeup brushes and then I decided to do a makeover.
Beautiful, beautiful as always.
Thank you, darling. I've lit my candle.
Oh, lovely. I've got my hot chocolate.
I've got my hot chocolate. So I was trying to get as cozy as possible. Oh, we're just breaking up. That's it. We've got you back. For our chat. And so, right, I'm just going to take a few deep breaths. Back in the room. And we are talking today about wintering and hibernation for humans.
Very nice.
Yeah. It's a subject that we've been speaking about on Threadbare Conversations on our podcast about the importance of quietening down and just enjoying the seasons change. And it's something that I hadn't any inclination to do or any knowledge of that until I came to do my training with you, Steph, when you were talking about this wintering and hibernation, and I thought it was fascinating. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit, just like we're all at a shanty training centre
Okay.
day. I want you to tell us what you were telling your students about the importance for humans of us to absorb these darker times and to embrace it.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting conversation I've been having a lot lately, actually, because I'm running this chakra course as well. And when we do the second chakra, the sacral chakra, it's all about cycles and what we can learn from cycles. And basically, we've lost that whole energy of the cycles. We've lost it because we've put all our energy into the high cycle, the light, the summer, the joy, the energy, the kind of space where you can just effortlessly work. And and society puts that on us as well, with our productivity, with our kind of getting everything we want whenever we want, working through, pushing on through, and not having any respect for the other side of the story, the other side of the cycle, which is our rest, our kind of going to ground, our deep nurturing for ourselves, and darkness. There's no respect or reverence to darkness in our culture, and we've lost this as a race, and we've lost this as women. We've lost our sense of cycle, and our menstrual cycle. We've often lost a cycle in as human beings, male or female, or gender, all genders. We've lost it in a day cycle. Quite a lot of us have no kind of concept of morning, night, and as the days get shorter and shorter in winter, we feel oppressed by this darkness, and we don't welcome it. There's always negative language used about winter and about, oh, it gets so dark, isn't it depressing? Darkness is associated with depression, and people will go to great lengths to avoid being dark and being in winter. So they literally follow the sun. Whilst that might be therapeutic, if you are on a low spell and you need some sunshine, you need a SAD lamp. It also can be very therapeutic to sit in the dark for a little bit and see if there's a message for you in deep rest, in deep nothingness. So I think we've lost that. We've lost that as a race, as a species. And it's a shame because there's so much potential in darkness. It's like we think that we want the light and we want the energy, but where do we think that comes from? You know, that comes from this potential, this darkness. All life comes from dark. All light comes from darkness. All energy comes from the space behind and before the energy. But we think that we're kind of taught to believe that energy is all there is. That you're some sort of failure if you can't carry on or if you have to take time out. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because it could be a very nurturing period if we could see these things that are in phase, that this is a phase. It could teach us patience. It could teach us acceptance. It could teach us that there's a time in our lives, in the year, in the day, in our menstrual cycle, that there's a time where you go actively to find things. And there's a time when you sit back and plant seeds, you know, and it teaches us to follow nature, to follow the moon, to follow the leaves of the trees, to follow, you know, nature's pattern of the sun, like everything going to ground in the winter. So, you know, we've kind of lost our way a little bit, I think.
Why do you think we've done that? I mean, how has that happened? I mean, why do we keep forgetting these things? You know, we forget so much of what is good for us. And we, I don't know, we make up these stories, don't we, of other things, and then we lose our way so much that we don't ever remember that was actually a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost touch with nature a lot anyway. I think there's quite a few reasons why this could be. You know, we're not in touch with nature. We don't live so close to nature anymore. And I think that the Industrial Revolution plays a part. You know, as soon as we got artificial light and electricity, you know, work hours were specified in our lives. We were told that we work and we're productive between 9 and 6 while there's light, and then you go home. But, you know, there's these funny studies that I'm always intrigued by, and you might have read them yourselves, that like before the Industrial Revolution, people used to get up in the middle of the night and have a couple of hours of active time, and they used to open their shops and, you know, do stuff. So also that kind of, that's not even following the light. That's just following your natural energy cycles. You know, we were told then when the Industrial Revolution came that you sleep in those hours and you wake in those hours. But a lot of people, especially, you know, you've probably heard of many women in their menopause can no longer sleep the whole night. And they freak out because they're not sleeping for the exact specified amount of hours that we are told we need.
Yes.
And it's like, actually, maybe it's okay to get up in the night. You know, it's okay to trust our bodies. So this is kind of going off on a tangent. But these hours are specified. Okay. Yeah. These hours are specified and put upon us by, you know, the Industrial Revolution to make productivity, you know, much more important than our natural inclination to follow nature. And then you add that to the patriarchy, you know, with its kind of societal aim of growth, productivity, you know, earning money, making the most. It's all go, 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 go. There's absolutely no room for rest and digest. And it's, you know, I was considering this before I came on, that we don't have any respect for people in their resting phases. We've lost all respect for elderly people who can no longer produce stuff and have to go to sleep. We've lost all respect for people who burn out, people who just want to stay in. And it's like, you know, society's kind of rewarding you all the time for working more and more and more and being really productive. And there's this busyness that we can kind of get ourselves entangled with. You know, I'm not out of this at all myself. And, you know, it's revered. It's, you know, everyone's praising us for this wonderful activity. And, you know, then when you do burn out and fall off, everyone's like, oh, well, you know, she couldn't handle it. It's a bit like, you know, when you consider alcoholism, you know, people who are like being able, yeah, what's wrong with you, poor love? You burnt out, haven't you? It's like, well, I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was doing what society was telling me was right. You know, lots of people who have alcohol issues, you know, they go from being really revered in society and culture, being able to like take their drink and, you know, almost praised and kind of pushed forward, like, wow, they're amazing. And then when they do show signs of like not being able to handle it, it's like, oh, what a shame. It's this kind of, you know, it's not honoring that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, burnout is a shame because you're actually missing the blessing of the rest then, because you've gone to the edge of that kind of work schedule. It's not a natural, the darkness and the rest that I'm talking about in a cycle is a natural, like, I've been awake, now I'm asleep. I've been active in the world, now I'm going to take rest. And during that rest, there's a lot of potential for growth and planting seeds and kind of processing, deep processing of the dark unconscious that will help us find to plant the new seeds. In a menstrual cycle, this would be when just before we bleed, and when we're bleeding, we're going to ground, we're kind of letting go of things that we don't need. And then, as the energy starts coming back, we can have quite a productive cycle towards the ovulation phase where we're very powerful. In a daytime cycle, this would be midday, we're active, we're up. And in a year cycle, that'd be obviously the summer where there's lots of light and there's lots of activity and we're going out and hanging about. But if we go too far, if we blow it in that cycle, then we blow it again in the dark cycle. We burn out, so that then it's like catching up all the time. It's not taking any lessons. It's not being able to kind of go into that potential, that kind of nothingness. It's just catching up all the time. We see this in the way we behave with our stimulants. We're so trying to catch the energetic wave, and we're so frightened of not having enough energy that we take all these stimulants all day long that we need to kind of stay up. And then when it comes to like resting at night, it's like we're so up, we need to then take all the other things that bring us down again. And it's just a shame because maybe in your own personal cycle, you'd need like a nap in the afternoon, or maybe, a time after work where you do a bit of yoga nidra, and that, you'd work that out for yourself if you could listen. But that isn't, the reason it becomes so difficult is that it doesn't fit into society's program of what the day entails. If I have to go to work at 9 o'clock and I have to be at my desk at 9 o'clock, I'm not allowed to be, awake all night if I've got to be productive. So we then have to kind of try and fit into society and find our own way at the same time. It's difficult.
I had to take a little nap underneath my boss's desk once.
Nice. I totally salute you for that.
I did, because I have a tough time. So I just made a little bed under his desk and just hid. But yeah, I just think, what is the, how do we say, I'm making a decision that I want to embrace this time. How do I start? What can I do to do something? I want to do something. I know that I'm thinking I've heard of this thing called wintering, and it's when it gets cold, and I don't know what can I do? What can I do that would be, because I'm not listening properly yet, but I want to be.
Well, it's funny. It's funny how it's being phrased in doing, because actually that's a summer speak. That's very active. So again, it's like trying to tap into this kind of intuitive non-doing. It's very difficult, but yes, we have to it's like you have to find the routine so that you can then. It's like the root chakra stuff, isn't it? You have the rigid routine so that then you can find the flow. So I would say the best thing you can do is embrace rest. Like, give some respect to rest in your life. Do everything you can to make your sleep patterns regulated, your resting patterns regulated. And it's not an accident that at this time and in this paradigm that we're in, restorative yoga and yoga nidra are massive. They have grown exponentially in, popularity, and they're everywhere you go. You can see nidra and you can see restorative yoga, and that's because they're coming up because there's a need, and people are realizing that it's just not going to work if we don't give this respect to deep rest. So I think the first thing you can do is just start having rest. Just do nidra, get your sleeping habits. Do some nidra at night to help you get off to sleep. If you wake up in the night and need to go back to sleep because you have a schedule that doesn't allow you to get up and, be creative in the night time, then do another nidra, help you get off to sleep. Get out of this kind of worry that you have to sleep for a certain amount of time. Start doing restful activities in the winter. I think if you start to mirror the activities of the season, then you can just start thinking that during the winter it's darker earlier, so I can go to bed earlier. I can, conserve some of my energy. It's actually investment to your summertime. So it's like kind of trying to honor those parts of the cycle. I mean, they're really good. Winter is a very good time for like learning new things, really being at home, planting seeds, thinking about how you'd like your year to look. I think home learning, home study, really, really good because you're inside anyway. So you could do those things that you don't get a chance to do in the summer because you're out. It's very kind of outward. You can phone friends. You can catch up with relatives on the phone. You can just sit in your pajamas with your hot chocolate and connect with people from inside. There's lots of things that you can do to kind of make this happen. And I know it's difficult for many people, but I think there's a lot of fear that prevents them from really exploring the dark times. I think most of the time there's just a fear that they will spiral into depression. They'll get too low. They're frightened of this kind of inside time. But often, not always. Obviously, sometimes there is real depression. That we do need medication to help us kind of retrain, get the patterns back. But often, it's simply a fear. And if you just sit in that period of discomfort, then you'll find it's like when children, teaching them to be bored. It's a very uncomfortable space for them, and we're very quick to just give them activities because they're really annoying when they're bored. Basically, they're really annoying. So you're like, oh, here's this, here's that, like stimulate. Whereas if you leave a child to be bored, they will, bit by bit, find their own kind of self-pleasing activity. And it's amazing what you can find. But if you never kind of put that on yourself, if you never sit in that kind of icky, just uncomfortable space, like, what do? I don't know. There's all this time and it's dark and then you'll never kind of find out what the next move is.
Yeah, I mean, I found out the other I think it was last weekend. I was laying down on the couch in the afternoon, and I couldn't stay awake. I was dozing in, and I was in and out of consciousness. I was having a lovely time. I was really loving it, but I was thinking in the background every time I thought, what's wrong with me? I can't stay awake. What is wrong with me? So that was, I started thinking I was ill. I just needed to felt lovely. I thought, I'm unwell.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because it's deep programming that thinks that, that makes you think that there's something wrong with you for needing to rest.
Yeah.
A body is just not going to be able to cope without rest. Babies, you put them to sleep every 2 hours. And that's okay. But then suddenly when you're an adult, you're not allowed to sleep or be tired. It's okay.
I think it was you that told me about the, well, I've never even questioned it, that we sleep, we're told to sleep that amount of time and we have to be awake then. And we should be more like dogs, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we should be more like dogs.
I know that it doesn't suit modern life.
No.
It'd be nice if it did, but it just can't happen. So, but that is the thing, is when I found that when I've ever had insomnia and I didn't sleep so well, after becoming a mother, my sleeping never really went back to what it was, teenage sleep, that heavy, just sleep for it was very sort of unrested sleep because I'm on red alert. But I did teach myself actually not to be too concerned when I woke up and just laid there. And I think you can, when you've got the insomnia, you can sometimes, like you say, worry about it and then not be able to sleep, but if you just drop into that, I'm awake, that's okay. I'm awake.
I think that's really good, because I think that's where the nidra can just rest you, like it'll rest your system down even if you don't go to sleep. It means that you're okay being awake, and you're not wasting your time. If that starts being an issue, like, I'm wasting my time, I should be sleeping, all of this makes it even worse, doesn't it?
It makes you
and also I think very agitated, and that it's impossible to sleep. And I think at different times in your life there'll be different sleep cycles. The sleep cycle of a mother is very different, and I would need to be much more active, much more awake, much more wakeful. I need to be able to have little naps all the time when my children are napping or when there's a moment in between jobs. chances are, you know, you're going to be awake a few times a night at least, and then, you know, having to like catch moments during the day of rest, even if it's just sitting on your own having a cup of tea. So it's a very different situation. Menopausal women, they're going to be awake, and maybe, you know, you're at a stage where you can be creative in the nighttime. It could be like the best time where you sit in front of your computer and you write your biography or whatever. But maybe you don't have that luxury and have to get back to sleep. There's lots of ways you can kind of like experiment with it, but not all people need the same amount of sleep. So not to be panicking about the sleep, but just asking yourself, how do I feel? You know, I'm tired now. Just seeing also that tiredness is these phases that wash over you. Maybe, you know, you're okay, and you just think you're not. You know.
Yeah, because it's all of this. We're fed all of this stuff with this formula, isn't there? This, you know, you've got to be in bed by this time, and you must have 8 hours, otherwise you will be ill.
And people have the Fitbits telling them how much they've slept. And,
yes.
You know, how deeply. I'm like, oh dear. I know that can be helpful to some people, but to me, that's horrifying. Like, it's all about how I feel now.
Analysing.
Being able to respond to that.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, like I said, not everyone has the privilege of being able to have the naps. So, you know, someone that's, you know, having to be out there in the modern world, working 9 to 5, maybe working 7 till 8, you know, like having to do insane hours, or even someone on a night shift.
Yeah.
You know, are we thinking that, you know, to do like a yoga nidra, to consciously start reading, separate the area in the house, make a little nurturing space.
Exactly. Yeah, just putting so much emphasis on rest, on deep rest, and so much respect and reverence that is necessary and worthy, you know. And I think, yeah, lots of yoga nidra, restorative yoga, things that are going to calm you, and just checking your stimulants as well in these darker times. You know, sometimes we need more stimulants in the winter to get going. But there's this tipping point, isn't there, where, you know, you've gone so high that then rest becomes disturbed. And that's personal, you know, it's a very unique thing to each person, and probably unique to different cycles of your life as well. But just checking in that you're not stealing some of that precious downtime from yourself. I think it's really important.
So anyway, Steph has got a retreat, aren't you? You're offering a retreat online, because I booked into Steph's retreat that was in, am I going to say it's Frome?
It was in Totnes, actually.
I made that up, but I was going anyway. I didn't know where I was going, but I paid the money and I was going, and then that got cancelled. So Steph started to do something online. You're making an offering online, aren't you? And I'm not meaning to do a big sale or anything, but it seems appropriate that we tell people about the offer.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yes, it's this. I've decided that we would just meet together virtually, and I think a lot of people were kind of really seeking connection at this time, and it's lockdown in the UK, and we're feeling very restricted, and we've forgotten that we can still connect with each other, and we've forgotten that you can find joy in your body, in our minds, in just like meeting with people, even if you just see their faces. You know, I just see you and immediately connected with you. And, you know, in some ways it's even better, because when it's finished, I'm back in my own life. You know, we're not sort of then awkwardly having lunch together. So for some people, it could be even better to kind of meet online, because you have all the joys of making connection with people, but then also able to retreat and be back in your own space in between the program. So I've kind of put together a virtual program, and I see Leela's here. She's joined us. She's coming actually to do a stress workshop. She's our philosophy teacher on the teacher training. So she's going to be our special guest on a Saturday afternoon. We're going to have lots of nidra, lots of settling in. There'll be some meditation sessions and sharing and journaling, as well as, you know, all bodies yoga classes to find some joy and wonder, and just to remember that, you know, life's not all rubbish. It's actually,
Exactly, but
there are aspects of
I
rubbish.
think the retreat would be a good opening to someone that wanted to do wintering. It would be,
Yeah.
it's like an introduction to what you should be doing, really, isn't it? Just to quieten down, do the journaling. I mean, I like I say, I don't always journal. I have always intentions about doing these things, but I've got one of these sort of busy minds, and can't lack of concentration. I'm sure I'm suffering from something.
Life. It's called life.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I just think something like that could be really grounding and just a good reminder of where we need to be, and quiet time, just quiet.
Yeah, really nice. And journaling kind of gets it out of your mind a little bit. It gives you opportunity to kind of like get it on paper. Sometimes it's just jumbling, stuff is just jumbling around in our heads, and there's no sense and there's no pattern. It seems like there's no pattern. It seems like there's no sense. But actually, when you get it onto paper, you can kind of step back a little bit from it. So it's like, a wise observation, which we're trying to get from our meditation. And sometimes it's blocking us from that meditation. But actually, to journal, you can actually kind of, step back and have a look. It's like, wow, is that really what's going on in my head? I need to sort this out, and I need to, I can do this, that, and the other, and I can stop doing this and that. And
Lila put hashtag overcome COVID life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, because COVID life, we're sold into believing that COVID life is really, really bad. And, life is life, and there are bad bits like winter. This is going to be the longest winter. It's like we're in Game of Thrones 2020. It's like COVID here and pandemic here, and now it's winter, and this is going to be the worst time in history. But it's like, this is another phase. This is another spiral. It's like, not belittling people's real trauma and problems with this pandemic and everything that it brings. It's also an opportunity to pause and to kind of, get your shit together, build some resilience, find your solid space where nothing can knock you off. It's like it's that building block, that potential, so that you can actually stand in your power and kind of say, yeah, this is a shit situation. This is difficult. This is a long, dark winter. I am feeling alone. I am feeling down, but it's okay. Hopefully we can kind of find that resilience from a situation like that. It's an opportunity then,
I like to think of this as an opportunity. Yeah. And I don't like the word lockdown. I just think it's just like, I don't know. It's just, there's something about that. It just doesn't feel what it could be.
And it paints a picture that isn't really accurate. I hear people, very sad and upset about lockdown and restraints from their freedom. But then when you kind of work and listen to what they are able to do, it's not that different from a winter. It's just that, it's difficult because a lot of our distractions are shut off to us. So it's even more intense. I was listening to this Gabor Mate thing about a lockdown situation, and often we would be distracting ourselves from our own personal trauma all the time in winter by going out to the pub, meeting with friends. It's like out, and you're only distracting yourself from going inside. So when this is actually taken away from you, you are faced with your deep traumas. You are faced with all this stuff that maybe that's what winter was for. But it's been enforced on you, so you resent it.
And enforced.
Yeah. But then winter is enforced on us. We don't get to control nature. We get to partake in it. We get to actively participate, but it's not for us to control when we're up, when we make money, when we do that. We kind of feel like we can take control of our lives, but we have no power and control in our lives. We don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when we're going to, when some great thing's going to happen. We don't know when some suffering is going to come to us. We're out of control, and the sooner we realize that, the better.
Oh.
Funny.
Oh, I love you, Steph. This is like a virtual hug. It's so nice.
I know, it's lovely, isn't it? It is lovely. I'm sorry, I do ramble on as well, You've got to shut me up.
I don't have anything to say. I just I like to listen. You know, it's fascinating when someone has got wisdom. It's nice to just be quiet and listen to that wisdom, because it's nice. It's like you're a storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like it.
You know, you were asking me in our little questions that we said we might include today. You know, you had these questions about retreat and lack of connection. And, you know, I wanted to say that, like, it doesn't mean that we don't have connection. I think retreating in the winter doesn't mean that we deny ourselves connection with people or have to be lonely. I don't think they're synonymous with each other. I think that retreating can be very connected, because if you think about it in a natural way, it's like you're going home. You're staying close to your homely people, you know, the friends and family around you, instead of going out into the world, into meeting people you don't know and going further away from home. It's coming back, so it's kind of reconnecting with the people that mean something, you know. So it's actually, it can be quite a big connected time, rather than, you know, people feeling isolated and disconnected just because you're home and you're staying rested. You know, I think you have to kind of make yourself do this at the beginning, but use this time to get connection again, because this is the time when you connect with old friends. You're kind of processing deep trauma that, you know, maybe you need to phone your great aunt, or, you know, have a chat with your mum, or whoever was getting on your nerves all year or whatever. So it's kind of making peace time.
Yeah. Tell people you love them.
Yeah. Just staying close. I think, you know, I lived in Italy for 10 years, as you know, and I mean, it did my head in, actually. The world shut down in the winter. I mean, it was hard for me, living in a young family as an expat with not really many friends. But I saw this amazing beauty in it. In the summer, because of the climate is so extreme, in the summer, everyone goes out and they are sleepless. You know, you can't sleep when it's that hot anyway, but there's lots of activities, and they start at like 11 in the evening. You know, kids are jumping on trampolines at 1 in the morning, and, you know, they're very insomniac in the summer. And then winter comes and people do not leave their houses. They stay in family units. The world shuts down. Everyone sleeps. And although it was quite, you know, difficult for me personally, I really saw that they were really living, they had no choice but to live aligned with nature, because nature was so strong. You know, we'd have snow where we were snowed in for weeks. You can't go out. You literally are grounded, you know. And actually, when we had lockdown first time, our family was like, yeah, it's like living in Italy, isn't it? There's been a snowstorm or an earthquake, like, it's like dab hand for us. The schools are closed. Yeah, of course they are. You know, so for us, it was very easy to kind of to get back into that rhythm, because in Italy, where we lived, we were grounded constantly in the winter. And in the summer, everyone was just out. You do all of your stuff. You have very active days. And then in the winter, you basically catch up and you stay close to home. And you do those nurturing things, and you make fires. And
well, that's, you know, that's not fair. That it seems like the UK gets so many things wrong. You know, like, you know, we've got the Mediterraneans. They're kind of doing it already.
They are. I mean, they have that weather and the nature that forces them into it. Our weather patterns are not that extreme. We don't get very cold. We don't get very hot. It's just all this sort of average. I think if we don't find it for ourselves, then it's difficult, because we're not forced into it by nature.
Yeah,
Nature's just a thing that
conscious about it, and really,
yeah, you can miss it. You can completely miss it, because it's just neither hot nor cold all the time. Probably just a bit grey all the time. And, you know, yeah, it's interesting.
I can't wait for
But that's natural as well. You know, England's weather is natural, but there should be a way we can find a cycle through that. You know, because we are native to this climate. There must be a way we can refine that. I just think you've got to kind of make more of an effort, maybe, especially in a city. You'll have to work a lot harder to find your rhythm.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to come to Italy now.
Yay! I want to go to Italy as well. It's locked down. No one can get in or out at the moment.
In. Oh, Well, I think we've come into a close on that, and that's been lovely. And I've got lots to think about, and to think about me just calming down a bit. Because I always think that I'm doing it. I'm not.
You probably are. You know, you're doing the work, and the work is the attempt. You know, it's not. You can't, you know, judge your productivity on resting.
Exactly. Which what is fascinating, because I've started doing a lot, some very, very slow classes where it's just like very slow movement, and my people were struggling with that. They don't want to slow, and they want to really feel, and that you know, to feel like they've been more to an exercise class rather than a nervous system buster, you know, like something to calm the nervous system is difficult, I think, sometimes to tell people this is actually equally good for you.
Yeah,
You know?
it's interesting actually, because sometimes in Italy, you know, they would need restorative yoga in the summer because they are so out and so tired and so hyper. And then in the winter, it's really cold and no one can get going. They would need a more dynamic practice. So it's really difficult to pick what's right. I think it's a really personal journey. But yeah, I think there should be as much respect for the slow practices, if not more, in the paradigm we're in, where the activity and the productivity is given supreme rule over. We do need to kind of swing the balance back a bit. And I think
helps you connect.
People are frightened of it. People are frightened.
They are, and they can't connect with their bodies, and that's quite amazing, really. I mean, I've been very disconnected from my own, but when you start to connect with your body and you realise, you know, like sometimes when you get injured, and you know that it's because of something you've done to yourself, not something, you know, that it hasn't just happened, it's just things that you do. And when you start to listen to these things because you're slowing down, that is amazing. When you go, oh,
it is.
oh,
Yeah, that's the wonder.
You're right. That's been happening because I've been doing that.
Yeah, and that's inspiring. That's you getting back the awe and the wonder of, you know, the process of it all, which we kind of, you know, we're separating ourselves from that awe and wonder, like, oh, beautiful moment.
Yeah. All right, darling. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
And about retreats and things. I just want you to rub my feet, really.
Oh.
Mainly, I'd like to be touched. That's what I'm looking forward to when you do the real time as well. So
yes.
Nice. Yes. Steph does.
I will touch you again.
Everything. She touches everything.
Like magic fingers.
Go on to Steph's website.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure we're going to come up with another plan of another chat that we'll be having. I know it because I'm loving this. So I'll see you soon, and thank you so much for your time yet again.
You're welcome. You can knock me off now. I don't know how to leave.
I'll let you. Have a lovely winter. Get cozy.
Thank you.